As of today, Ottawa has been in stage 3 reopening for exactly 1 week. So how are we doing? And can we be doing more to help contain the spread of COVID-19? We're joined now by University of Ottawa epidemiologist Dr. Raywat Deonandan. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, so we know that these numbers we've seen over this week are actually as a result of stage 2, not even necessarily numbers coming out of stage 3, which we've only been now in for a week. Is it inevitable these numbers could even go up more now that we are even into more business with the economy reopening?
Inevitable is a strong word. I'd never say inevitable, but it's tempting to conclude that, yes, this is the result, obviously, of human behavior. And apparently there seems to be a signaling to many in the community that the crisis is over, therefore we're going back to our normal socialization, which is not the case. So as stage 3 opens up, I suspect that signaling will continue. So we have to sort of modify and double down on our messaging to really be careful going forward.
Is there some confusion, do you think, for people between the social circle, the social bubble, which we are still told is at 10, and the social gathering, which we know indoors can be 50 with proper distancing measures in place, or outdoors 100?
There's a lot of confusion going on. I don't blame people for being a little unsure of what to do. But yeah, I think that's the crux of a lot of this problem. Remember that the social bubble, that's essentially the people you're in the spaceship with, the people you're going to share your germs with, the people you can be intimate with and hug and kiss and not wear a mask around. Everybody else, regardless of the size of the gathering, you had to social distance around, wear a mask, and avoid touching intimately. So that message has somehow been lost, and we need to reiterate it.
Do you think we're opening the economy too quickly or at the right pace?
Originally, I thought it was the right pace. When I was asked, is it time for stage 3, I said yes, based upon a number of indicators. But we seem to be trending in the wrong direction right now, and I'm very concerned, especially since we have about 4 or 5 weeks before schools are supposed to open. And our priority should be to get the caseload as low as possible such that we can keep the schools safe. And any sense that we have an upward trend suggests to me that we need to slow down a bit. So maybe we should reconsider opening up some items.
Should we be going backwards at all?
Well, that's not up to me, luckily, but I think we should definitely reconsider opening the bars. I think the bars was a bad idea. People are not going to them responsibly. Most people are. Let's be blunt here. Most people are, but this disease doesn't tolerate the slightest bit of deviation. We can't really tolerate 5-10% of people being flagrant socially. So unless we get a more responsible response from the citizens at large, I think it may be wise to dial back some of the freedoms.
If we see numbers like what we've seen this week, 43, 33, some of which were kids under the age of 9, in that first week of school, should we delay the opening of schools?
Wow, that's a tough one as well. It depends on the kind of infrastructure and procedures we put into place for dealing with children who become ill. I would say, yeah, if we see those kinds of numbers, then we should reconsider what we're doing around the schools. But that's why the school opening needs to have a comprehensive and complicated plan with a diversity of solutions to accommodate that kind of scenario. We're looking at what's happening in Australia, which is experiencing their fall and winter right now, and they're seeing what looks like an upward trend towards a second wave. So we have every expectation that when people go back inside in the fall, we're going to have a reassertion of this disease. So it's important now to get these things straight and to push those case numbers as low as possible.
Are the odds in favor of a second wave?
The odds are always in favor of a second wave because only about 5% of the Canadian population has been infected, meaning the overwhelming majority is still susceptible. So mathematically, it makes sense that this disease will reassert itself. It doesn't have to, though. If the appropriate public health measures are in place, we can keep those handful of cases down to a simmering few. But it seems likely that we're going to see some rise again when the fall reemerges. So never say never. However, it seems very likely that a second wave is coming. All other pandemics in the past, for the most part, have followed the same pattern.
Here we are in stage 3 now, and most, if not all, businesses have reopened if they can. And it is mandatory that we wear masks, at least in Ottawa. Do you see this being the norm for quite some time, the masks, the PPE? And could you give a timeline to how long you think this will be our norm?
Well, it'll be our norm until a vaccine arrives. Now, a vaccine might become sooner rather than later, given recent news. So that's good. That's good news. But before the vaccine has saturated our society, the mask wearing will be the norm. Keep in mind that mask wearing has also diminished the prevalence of the flu and other respiratory diseases. So it has some good side benefits too. And we look at Asian cultures who've been wearing masks for many years, and that's become their new normal for some time now. I suspect this will be an element of our new normal for the next number of years.
Dr. Deonandan, with your expertise, is there any element to where we are right now, over 4 months into this pandemic, that keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is the failure of some people in society to do their part. I was optimistic, and I still am optimistic, but I was optimistic mostly because Canadians in general express a desire to help each other. That's part of our national values and identity. And to the extent that a small number of people are unable to make that sacrifice, that's what makes me worried, because pandemic control is ultimately dependent upon the ability of individuals and society to sacrifice for the greater good. And I question our ability these days to do so. So that's what keeps me up at night. Governments can only do so much. Scientists can only do so much. It's up to the people to do the rest.
Finally, then, what's your message to them? How do we get through to those people who are not following the rules?
It's not about you. It's about the people you love. And maybe you are invincible, and maybe you feel immune, fine, but you may spread it to other people who will die. And one death is an unbelievable tragedy. If you ever had anyone in your life lost to you, you know what the impact that will have. So do not put that burden upon somebody else.
Dr. Raywat Deonandan, an epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa, thank you so much for your time and expertise, as always.
Thank you.